welcome and welcome back to the channel for one more episode of Q&A in Alissa and Jay channel. And in today's video, we have a very peculiar topic that we have never discussed before, and that is why I think Sony video formats availability is actually the simplest among all the cameras that's there in the market today, especially for the new content creators that's coming up in the market. And it's very simple. In fact, for professionals, they might prefer the formats like the menu options available from the cameras like Panasonic or Canon. But for new content creators, I think Sony has made the simplest of the menus, and we're going to discuss in depth when it comes how it fares in editing, how it fares in understanding different codecs, etc. So before that, about me, we are Alissa and Jay, and we love to travel, and we talk about the gears that help us create the content that we would like. We make a lot of travel vlogs which are available in our channel. You can check out our videos here. This is our website which you can check out, especially the tech ones where I put up all the honest reviews, and I'm actually proud of doing it because a lot of people in the internet, they tend to not do some justice for the consumers, the audience. But I do care about my audience who are listening to me, spending their time to understanding what I have to offer to you guys. So yeah, so not to waste your time, I will explain quite a bit here quickly, and so we'll move on. And before anything, I want to mention that today I will be attending a Zoom camera fair, where I will check out a lot of new cameras, new lenses, audio gears, etc. And so that I make more content for you guys, understanding all those cameras, what's coming up in the future, and the new content will come up sometime next week or next to next week. And also, I will have to shorten this live stream to just 1 hour as compared to 1.5 hours before. And also, if you have any questions, you can ask me anytime during this live stream, or when it's replayed, you can put it up in the comments. I will definitely reply to your comments if you have any questions. And yeah, what I want to show you here is actually I have a table of contents in every post where I mention the help guides for Sony systems. And you can just, let's say if you're using Alpha A6700, you can click on that and it will lead you to this help guide where you can check out whatever you want, and you will get a really good understanding of what the camera has to offer. So let's say, for example, if you're clicking on video, you're searching for video, what are the options there? You can you have a lot of options here. Let's say, for example, finding functions from menu. Yeah, so these are the options available, blah blah blah. It's pretty intuitive, and one thing that impressed me is actually the demonstration of what each icons mean. So for example, icons, so touch function, list of icons on the screen. So this is pretty intuitive, don't you think? Everything is clearly explained what each function does and everything. So it's a pretty good setup. All right, so before we move on to the next topic of the menu systems in Sony cameras versus the others, I want to say something. I sold my A6700. It is kind of unfortunate, but I will be replacing with a newer camera this year, whichever it is, either A7 or A7S4. So either of them. So I don't know which one I'm going to choose, but I may or may not choose the Cine line as well, because for these kind of live streams, it goes for hours, and I would want a camera that is actually withstanding the pressure I put on those cameras, especially for videos. So that's something I'm looking forward to. A6700, you might need a fan, this and that, which is not my thing. So I'm looking for that sort of camera, which I may purchase this year or wait for next year. It's okay to wait. All right. Excuse me. So switching back to this, here I have a few travel posts which you can check out. Okay, this is tech again. Oops, tech again. So here we have a few travel posts like Myanmar, Brunei and such. Yeah, we do like to photograph, film videos, travel vlogs, etc. So getting back to these things, so I have tried to analyze a lot of things from a lot of cameras, and one of the things that intrigued me is understanding what each camera companies has to offer in terms of video formats, codecs, and bit rates. Why are these important? When it comes to the cameras, especially the hybrid cameras, the consumer cameras, not the professional ones. Professional ones, for example, if you look at F5.6. So here's the professional ones. Let me select all for your convenience to understand what they have to offer. By the way, these are the data. I'm not sure if it's picking up. Okay. So, okay, I think I will look at this one, for example. So these are all the options offered by professional cine cameras. So what they have to offer is a lot of HD options, a lot of UHD and 4K options, right? So F5.6 is a pro camera that's like $6,000, $7,000, right? So before that, where did I get all this information? You can do it in two ways to understand the different formats, codecs, and video recording options available in each camera. You can either go to their official website, for example, for Sony, sony.co.th/en, I believe. Yeah, so this is the English version. Always I have a practice of denying all the cookies. So here, for example, F5.6, you can click on F5.6. All right, so here, go to specifications. You might be able to find it there. So here it's there, but you might want to do it a different way. So there is also a website called CineD, where they decimate the camera, understand every aspect of the camera. They have a thorough database of every single camera, every single modern cameras, and I think that's a pretty comprehensive website to visit if you need to understand or collect data from any of the options provided by the manufacturers. I hope it's streaming, right? Guys, if you have any audio issues, please let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so I've been seeing some warning in connectivity. If the quality of the audio or video is low, please let me know in the chat. I will reply right away. Okay, so let me quickly log into CineD and I will bring that to the screen. So I don't want you guys to look at the login credentials, of course. Yeah. Okay, so I have successfully logged in. I'll bring it here. All right, so here we have CineD. This is the website. So you can log in to see the database. And if you go to database, they have databases for cameras, lenses, and stuff like that. I want to see the database for camera. And here we have all these cameras being analyzed in terms of dynamic range, rolling shutter, video recording options, etc. So I will go through one by one. So here we are going to select a few cameras. So a few things. Video-centric camera recently released, where GH7, Z6 III, and let's say, for example, we will pick up something like Sony here. Sony, let's say FX3 and Sony A6700 for our convenience, because, you know, we love A6700. All right, so here, if you go down, it talks about the dynamic range. What is the maximum dynamic range that the camera has to offer versus maximum SNR1, SNR2. I'm not too sure about what it is, but you take the values, all right? So, and you compare the values with the other cameras, and they have their own rankings, and looks like they have not tested for FX3, but let's see where A6700 is. It's actually lower than GH7, which I think is true. Actually, it's somewhat true. I will come back to that later. there's a place where and when and which codec, which video format, which bitrate you get this kind of a dynamic range from small sensor cameras. There's a thing that you have to understand. All these data you need to consider with a grain of salt. Look at this dynamic range test results. They have considered, okay, I think I have to go back. I accidentally clicked on more. So here, let's see more. Okay. To get the maximum dynamic range, you have to record in ProRes RAW and with a bitrate of like several gigabytes. And to do that, it's not possible to do it all the time. But on the other hand, Sony a6700 is offering so much dynamic range for lower bitrate options. XAVC SI already offers like 11.2 dynamic range. That's insane. XAVC SI gives you like takes up like 600 megabits per second bitrate, and you get already so much of dynamic range in that mode. So that's like at 25 frames per second. And here it's when you're shooting 4K 120 frames per second, you get about 9.5 stops of dynamic range. And in XAVC at 2500 ISO, you still get like 11.1, not much of difference, right? That's amazing. So dynamic range actually depends on what ISO you're shooting at, which base ISO or not, and it also depends on which format, your compression and frame rates. A lot of things. So you have to remember the dynamic range. To get the best out of it, you might probably have to push a ton of data. So let's not go too much into the dynamic range. We will come back to that later. What I'm more curious is the options available for these things. So let me quickly move my other camera out of the way. So I was planning to show my A7C II, but it will have to wait. It will have to wait until I get to the menu options. All right, so here we can see all these recording modes starting from HD. So you can click on the C complete recording modes and it will take you here. Select more and it's like several pages of recording, which I have copied and consolidated here in this Excel sheet for a few cameras here. So for example, Fujifilm, I think I have chosen XH2S. And no, so the formats I have chosen is actually for X106, which is closer to I think XT5. Also we have here the Sony cameras. So these are the formats offered by Sony cameras, but this is in the format of the Cine D. And also here we have the Panasonic GH7. You can see the ProRes takes up like 1.5 gigabytes of data bitrate. Not bytes. Did I say bytes? No, it's 1.5 gigabits per second of data pushing into the card every single second. Just digesting that is actually like pretty hard. I do have a CF Express Type B card. I think I can show you here. Yeah, so I do have a CF Express Type B card, and it's okay. I mean, it's 650 gigabyte, but how long can I record? Probably less than, okay, it says 40 minutes, right? So 40 minutes for 512 gigabyte. So probably 1 hour 10 minutes max. That's what I can record with 650 gigabyte. But if I were to push like 600 megabyte, probably I can go for 100 plus minutes. Easy. Yeah, 150 minutes. So yeah, no, 150 multiplied by 8, so probably 8 hours. Yeah, something like that. The calculation is you have to convert, let's say for example, you have let's say 600 megabits per second for Sony XAVC SI format at 60 frames per second. If it is like 24 frames per second, it will be like 240 megabits per second. So this is 600 megabits, and to convert it to megabytes you have to divide it by 8. So this is like 75 megabyte per second. You have, let's say for example, 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte is 1024 gigabyte multiplied by 1. Okay, let's do it this way. 1024 megabyte. This is 1 terabyte, and we have 75 megabytes. So basically you can fill up this card with this much seconds of recording. And if you want to know how much it is for let's say in terms of hours, you just multiply this with 3600. So you can probably record at XAVC SI 60 frames per second for about 4 hours. That's what you get. But in terms of a recording in ProRes HQ for 512 megabyte, you probably are having a much less mileage. So yeah, the point here is, let me show you. Okay, so I want to consider what format is easy to edit. Okay, so whenever you're recording in long-op, H.265, high efficiency formats, it's going to take up a lot of energy for the computer to decompress it, unless you're using the MacBook's M1 system. Okay, just give me a second. I think there is a pigeon that got stuck in the house. Anyway, let's continue to record. Alright, so here, let me finish this. So here we have, and all intro modes are like a combination of JPEGs. Let's say if you're filming some action, you might probably want to use the all intro so that the compression will be lower and you get the in-between frames. So long op is basically, it's going to skip some frames in between and it will extrapolate in the end, but all intro will capture all the frames and compress it to a more usable format. And that is actually evident when using DaVinci Resolve and you're scrubbing through the timeline. You'll be able to scrub at 24 or 60 frames per second how your timeline is set up. But if you were to use the HEVC, high efficiency formats, it's going to be like have to decompress every single time, and it's going to take a lot of time for you to scrub and process the data. I mean, for the computer, yeah, it's a pretty hard format for the computer. So that's something you have to think about. So when we consider all the all-intro formats provided by these cameras, let's see how easy it is for us to comprehend. All right, so this is the easiest format to edit. This is all-intro format. Each manufacturer will have their own version of all-intro formats. For example, this is Panasonic. They call it as AI, all-I, which is fine. They have the maximum bitrate up to 800 megabits per second. The common one, some of them might be like or downsample from a bigger sensor area. For example, here, I think the 800 megabits per second is actually downsample from a 5.6K sensor area, but 600 is kind of like a cropped sensor area, so which might be true to 4K sensor area. Definitely it has lower quality than the 800 megabits per second. Also, when it comes to Nikon, it's actually a bit different. Nowhere you will see all intro modes. Nowhere. Why? Because they call it as ProRes HQ. All right, so this is how they call the format to be. And if you are in confusion, you can always go to Z63 all intro modes. So if you check it out, you get the reference guide. So this is where it actually talks about the all intro. So all I. If I search for those terms, there is only one mentioning of all-I in the entire manual. Okay, so this is the state that we are in when it comes to Nikon. So let's quickly search for it. Okay, so here it says ProRes 422 MOV 10-bit. Only ProRes 422 HQ. Only this format offers you all intro. So if you go back to this, you can see Z63 offers ProRes HQ. ProRes HQ. Let's filter it down. So let's clear. Let's do this. ProRes HQ. See, for some computers it might be easier to edit in RAW, but most computers can handle this format, all intro format. So you can see the bitrate for this ProRes HQ format. It's downsampled from a lot of data. As you can see here, the maximum clip length is 125 minutes. It can be recorded through CF Express Type B cards or SD cards. And you can see for 800 megabits per second, you can only record up to 25 frames per second. Otherwise, if you want to record 60 frames per second, you got to go to, this is the only option, 2.13 gigabits per second. That's the amount of data that's chugging into the memory card every single second. Yeah, probably 160 GB of memory card can record only up to 10 minutes. Yeah, digest that. Probably like 4 times of it is like 650 GB, and probably you can record like 40 minutes of video in a 650 gigabyte card. You have to think about where you're gonna store the data. Like, let's say if you want to keep all these files for a later processing, you need a hard disk like this. And how many hard disks are you planning to buy if you're going to record in this format? Not for consumers, okay? Not for consumers. So when it comes to Canon, let's look at Canon. Canons are pretty straightforward, but the problem with the Canon is they have a lot. You see, they offer 3 modes of all intro formats. So here, one high, medium, and light. And only the light, okay, not even the light, okay, only the light offers 600 megabits per second options. In Sony, the downsample version of the 6K sensor is actually at 600 megabits per second, but these guys are downsampling at a very, very higher bitrate. I'm like, you need to optimize it further, right? So you see, this is what is happening. These are downsampled ones. I think even this one, I'm not too sure about it, like which one is downsample, which one is not. I think I made, if I'm not wrong, yeah, I noted down somewhere which one is downsample, which one is not, but it's still confusing. We will get back to Sony towards the end, right? So we don't know which one is downsample. If you want to use downsamples, which means you get a lot of resolution. If you're not cropping into the video, you don't have to use the downsample version of the video. You can record in pretty much the 4K sensor area and you get a really good quality video. But if you're cropping in, let's say 200 to 400%, then probably you might want to use a downsample version video so that you get enough resolution in each crop. Let's say, for example, you film a room of 3 people talking in a podcast environment. You can have vertical videos of each of them talking from that horizontal stretch, which you cannot do in standard. It'll be too noisy. So those are the benefits of recording in a downsample video than recording in the 4K sensor area. So yeah, those are the things you might want to know. And here Canon is really confusing. You might want to remember which one is downsample and which one is not. We'll move to R5.2. And here, look at the options. There are tons of options, okay? Like, I have filtered out a few, and that's why you're able to see just in one page. If I haven't filtered them out, you will be looking at a lot of different formats, okay? So here, it's still the same story. It's just XF, ABC, S intra. But the Canon offers something good. So here the Canon offers XF AVC in H.264 format, which means it's easier for your computer to process. But on the downside is it's not an efficient format, and that's why we get a lot of bit rates. And this is UHD. This I think is more usable, but you see, Sony offers 24 frames per second at 240 megabits per second. Here it's double. That's what I say by using a non-efficient compression. So Sony offers H.265 compression for XAVC SI modes. So it's like all intra, but more efficient compression. But Canons, they do offer that. So let's say we pick up I think this one. So there are 3 more options here. I can remove these 3. So these are H.265 compression, and you can see that bit rates. It's more efficient, but it's also chugging up all the data rate. So this is the confusing part, you know, which one to choose for which type of computers you're processing the video and how easy you want to process those videos. You can be like, hey, you can use proxies to edit those long up files. Yeah, to some extent. Sony doesn't have good proxy recording options. Everything is H.265, and the ones that are using the S modes are actually not that great. So I would say recording in SI format is the best option in the Sony cameras, and we are looking at that still. In any cameras, actually, H.265 is kind of like H.265, and the long op format is actually kind of taxing, but H.265 is still okay. But long op is stressing the computer. Okay, with that in mind, I think we have covered Panasonic. Yeah, Panasonic is still the same, and here we do have an equivalent version of Sony. And if you're saying that this is not confusing, which is fine, okay, each to their own, but I think for most beginners or intermediates, they will be looking at these available options, they will be pretty confused. All right, now going back to Fuji is kind of tricky. Let me show you here. Fuji is kind of tricky. For X100VI, they do not have any all intro option at all. They're like, doesn't need it. Nobody's gonna record video using X100VI, but I do. All right, I have made a few B-roll shots using Fuji X100VI, and I love it. And I have been making some Instagram videos using just X100VI, and the quality is amazing. So I would still continue to use it because the data rates are so low, just 200 megabits per second. And for short videos, they're still fine. But if you're going for a long form video where you have to edit a lot, you might probably want to consider a different camera. X100VI is not the camera that you will use for recording long videos. Right? So here you see there's no H.264 or all intro formats. Everything is just these. All right. And Fuji is not the camera you might want to buy for videos either. Their autofocus is crap and their stabilization is crap, so forget it. Now coming back to Sony, I have a few Sony cameras here. I have to take up this one. Let's see. Yeah, so this one I think is from, if I'm not wrong, these are the APS-C formats. Yeah, this is from A6700. Okay, forget about the sensor mode. We'll talk about what are these, right? These are the codecs. Sony offers just 2 modes, and they have subdivision of 2 modes. Okay, let me explain quickly. Here, XAVC and XAVC HS, XAVC SI, all right, SI, I is intra, HS is long op, right? So it's the more efficient format, consuming less data rate, and SI is less compressed format, but having more data rate. All right, so this is HD. Let's not talk about HD. Let's only focus on 4K. So for 4K, the maximum data rate it's using, even for the cameras until FX6, is still 600 megabits per second. If you still go to let me pick up A1.2. I think I have seen it, but let me show you guys. So even if you're picking up A1 Mark II, you can see the maximum data rate it is pushing out is just 600 megabits per second, which is awesome. In my opinion, look at this, 520 megabits per second. This is 8K videos at 520 megabits per second. But the downside is those are not all intra modes. Those are HS modes. HS is not all intra. They have more compression. It will be more taxing for the computer to edit. So you have to keep that in mind. So 4K 120 frames per second in low-end cameras are not available in all intra modes. Cameras like FX6 or maybe even FX3, I'm not sure, they have 120 frames per second recording options in all intra modes, which will be very easy for you guys to edit. For us, even for me, I prefer editing in all intra mode. And also, let me show you here. So yeah, this is what I was talking about. All the SI modes are the maxing out at 600 megabits per second. And this is what I love about Sony. You tend to save a lot of space saving the data after the project is finished editing. Like you need to have a backup. You don't want to have like gigabytes and terabytes of data backup, and probably you might not end up using it. Maybe it'll just go waste, but these, I think they can still be kept aside, right? Or you can compress it to H.265. Okay, I think these are already H.265, but you can still render it to a different format and save it. So it's a much simpler bitrate. All right. Plus you have Angelbird cards at half the price of CF Express Type B cards, and they are like of 1 terabyte. And this is something I love about Sony. CF Express Type A cards are maxing out at 1 terabytes now, I think, and Angelbird cards are about $500-600. And if you get an offer, you get for a very cheap price. And the card that I have is actually $1,000 when it was released. Now the price has dropped down because we have a lot more 1 terabyte cards. I think there are like 4 or 5 terabytes cards for CF Express Type B, but now they have dropped a lot. So in terms of memory usage, memory storage, and recording card options, internal recording, you have more benefit with the Sony cameras. And talking about, let me see, yeah, we are at a half-hour mark, so let me say that out loud. And what else? Yeah, so this is what I wanted to show you guys. Even for the newest camera today, these are the bit rates offered, and I think that's why Sony is having the simplest option ever in among all these cameras that we saw today. Forget Olympus, please. They only have the long op options. They don't have all intra options for some reason. I took Panasonic because Panasonic GH7 is the most video centric camera that they have made in terms of consumer hybrid cameras, and these are all the recording options they have. So I think I rest my case here. Sony giving a really good bitrate. Let's see here. Yeah, Sony giving you very good bitrate for the least compression formats available is the most simplest solution that you can find for your video recording needs with good editability in your computer. Let's say you have an older computer, all intra formats will still function fine. You can edit to your heart's content without scrubbing or waiting for the timeline to move after scrubbing the video. All right, I hope you can ask any of your doubts in the chat regarding anything related to camera, audio, video, whatever. I will try to answer them, and I think that's what I wanted to discuss. And now we will move on to looking at the menu system in the Sony cameras. So right now I have my Fujifilm X100VI that will be showing you what options we have in the Sony cameras. So the camera that we are going to use here to show the menu is A7C II. All right, let me switch it. All right, so here we have, okay, I need to readjust it. Just give me a second. Okay. So okay, it's still not coming up for some reason. I'm here, by the way. Okay. So yeah, something wrong with it, guys. Just hold on a minute. Like, if you have any questions, think about it. Try to put it in the chat so I can answer them right away. All right, I think we are here. All right, it's still blank, guys. I'm sorry. For some reason, it's not working. All right, I think now we are able to see this part. Let me change the A7C2 properties. All right, I think it should be fine now. Okay, so I'll just enlarge this part. Yeah. All right, we are going to see the menus here. It's a bit close, I think. Yeah. Let me reframe this part. Oh, working with multiple camera angles is always a bit of hassle, especially when I don't have the setup I usually have. I used to work with oh, interesting. I did not expect this. Okay, the problem is, yeah, this is the problem. Yeah. Okay, so we will move on to this. All right, hope you can see me. All right, so when it comes to the menu systems, okay, yeah, now it's more visible. All right, so I do not have the memory card, so please forgive me for all these things, okay? So when it comes to menu systems, let's switch it to video. Instantly you will know which menu system you're in because there are some icons on the left. You can find out this is video and the other one was photo. And even in the menu system, Panasonic tend to put everything in one page. Like for example, if you just keep rotating under the file format, you can find everything related to the video options like bit rates, the transfer rates, blah 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 formats. But when it comes to Sony, we have it in few places. So for example, when it comes to file format, you have the option to choose which one you want. Let's say you want the all intro mode, you choose the SI. If you want HS, it's going to be a downsampled, highly compressed format, which is still fine, which is very close to SI, but not suitable for fast action movies because, like I said, it's not capturing all the frames. It's basically decompressing by extrapolating the previous and subsequent frames. So that's a disadvantage of long up format, but you still get a very nice footage if you need to record more things in a less less space. Let's say I'm just using 128 gigabyte card, and for that I think I should be preferring HS instead of SI because SI is consuming 600 megabits per second. All right, so yeah, this is one. And the second part of the equation is actually choosing the movie settings. So the first, we are choosing the format. Second, we are choosing the movie settings. If you're choosing SI, the bitrate is like constant, you cannot change it, but you can change the frame rate to 60, and you can see it jumped to 600 megabits. So for SI, it's fixed, you cannot change anything. But for HS, we have a few formats. So we have a few movie settings, recording options, depending on the frame rate. Here for 24 frames per second, you can choose up to 100 megabits per second transfer or recording rate, which is 10-bit 422. That's amazing. And for 60 frames per second, you have recording options up to 200 megabits per second. That's awesome, right? So that's it. So when you set these two, you get everything you need, all right, for video recording options. And I have them here at my fingertips. So let me show you that as well. So here we have the C2 button. Clicking on the C2 button will open up the frame rate options. It's very convenient for me. I can choose whatever I want. And if I click on this, okay, so this is for APS-C mode. Since it is like A7C2, I can switch between APS-C or full frame mode. And the camera is stuck. Okay, the camera is turned off. So that's the caliber, that's the mileage that we can get from X106. So basically I have set, if I'm not sure if I can show that. Unfortunately, I cannot show it that way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do something that I have never done before. I'm going to turn off my background, filter, delete, yes, okay, close. All right, so this is me, and I will switch back to my previous screen. Okay, all right, so I'm using the vertical mode. I'll switch to the horizontal mode. This is more fuller. Yeah, here you have my house is messy, so please forgive me on that. All right, so here, let me show you. So you have these things, right? And here I use this button to switch between the APS-C mode and the full frame mode. Oh, sorry, this one. Which one was it? Yeah, this one. You can see this button. This icon means APS-C mode. If I press this absence of this icon means full frame mode. And that's how it works. And I do have a format set to this button. So let me quickly see. Yeah. So if you go to the function, I have set the formats over here. So I know if I need a lot of space to record throughout the day, I can use the HS format. And if I don't need that, I prefer shooting in XAVC SI format, which is definitely more convenient for me. So right now I have chosen the HS format, and I switch between the APS-C mode and the full frame mode. It's very, very convenient to use this camera, especially the full frame with the crop option cameras. Cameras like Sony A7S III or FX3, they don't have the crop option, and I don't think even the FX6 have the crop option, because they're just, the sensor itself is just a 4K sensor. But the downsample video options available cameras like the A7C2, A7 IV, those cameras have the APS-C option. Forgive me. Alright, I think that's all I wanted to say in this video. We had a lot of hiccups because I don't have additional camera to show the menu system. Forgive me for that. But anyway, I hope you understand what's the difference between all the options available in other cameras compared to the Sony cameras, and why Sony provides the simplest options for emerging content creators and intermediates, and especially for hybrid shooters. And with that, I want to conclude this video. If you have any questions, you can put it down in the chat, or you can comment in the replay. I will answer your questions anytime I get time. All right, that's it. Let me conclude this video. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for staying and trying to, analyze stuff with me. Yeah, I put everything in Excel and I try to analyze so that I can think about my next purchase. Yeah, I do think about buying cameras all the time. And that's it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Peace.